Let's talk about community for a minute, because what that makes me think is there are banks, I won't mention their names, but their names suggest that they're for a shared interest, whether it's environmental, or some other interest that a community of people would have, and therefore the bank becomes about as their sort of mission. I would like to hear your thoughts on community, because I think you definitely have a really good take on it.
We've talked about it. I think you and I have discussed community a lot, and there is different types of community. Mm-hmm. Still people think of banks and bricks and mortar. So
right.
Where your bricks and mortars are, you're going to have community based on geography. And, when people looked at establishing a banking relationship, are they going to establish where a bricks and mortar location is within a local driving distance?
Right. 3 to 5 miles, 10 miles.
Is that how they do it now? Or is it based on, rates? If they're looking to invest money in a savings account, it's very easy to Google who has the best savings rates, open an account anywhere. They don't have to reside there. How often you use it? Or do you ever plan on going to location? So, in this digital age, how much does that play into new accounts?
Right.
It's, I think, very, very hard to say, because, people always like to have an idea of why they chose the things they do. Mm-hmm. You think, but, it kind of goes back. Sometimes a lot of it's impulsed.
Sure.
And I think people and we're going to dive on to, this segue something else, and I've thought long and hard over the years of why do people choose the bank to deal with?
Yeah.
And as I've talked to people and, almost interviewed, it does kind of come across maybe that they've just driven by years and, okay, I'm going to do it. Or were their parents banked at?
Right.
You have a lot of that. Now things are changing because you see it online and you don't need to go into a location at all. Mm-hmm. And in fact, typically when you go into a bank branch, it's because most of the time you're mad. There was a charge, something went wrong.
Yeah.
Now you want it fixed.
Service function there.
So we either see really happy people or angry at something. Now I lost my train of thought.
Well, I do think that's
go back community.
Yeah.
We've got, there's many descriptions of community. You've got geography, location, serving where you live, where you actually live, where you frequent. Mm-hmm. So, to me, what a community bank is you're serving the needs of your customers. So your customers could be, and most likely if you are bricks and mortar, the ones in your immediate vicinity.
Right.
And then, when the bank profits, where do those profits go? Where are the owners of the bank? Mm-hmm. If you're Citibank, you're publicly traded. Anybody can invest in Citibank. Anybody can invest in Chase. Mm-hmm. For the most part, the smaller banks are owned by closely held corporations and are public. Mm-hmm. So who owns them? Where are the shareholders? Mm-hmm. So to me, I think a community bank are individuals that actually live in the community. We're a percentage of the ownership. So, 50%, 70%, 100% of the ownership actually live in a close proximity to that community.
Right.
And then as you broaden it up and, now if your community is specific to one set industry, how well do you understand that community?
Right.
Our shareholders, our board of directors, our executives, do they understand their community? Have they been a part of the community? If you're experts in manufacturing, how well do you understand the manufacturing and are you part of that community?
Yeah.
But yes, now you have communities market turn. Right. I've recently saw, a bank that they are pushing a green climate initiative, which I don't think there's any dispute that I ever come across anybody that doesn't care about the climate. Now their actions may dictate differently.
Sure.
But, everybody wants the health and prosperity of Mother Earth.
Yeah. Right.
Get too hokey on that, but, in aspects, I do my part by, my spending money, purchases. Do I buy new when what I have can be fixed, even to that, degree. But now you have banks that are saying our sole mission is going to be based on carbon impact, which is great. But now let's see their actual actions. And so one particular bank that I heard, started, got a lot of that. Their first loan was to a gas station. I love gas stations.
Yeah.
90% of them are owned by mom and pop operators.
Right.
A predominant part of our portfolio is gas stations. But how is that also in your mission? So,
it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't
give me
work
a break. That is complete lip service.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, you've talked about this idea of shared interest, and as a marketer, I see it all the time. And community lives online through Facebook groups. In the comments on LinkedIn, people will, they essentially become work friends virtually on LinkedIn, especially. But you see it on Twitter, Reddit. There's lots of places where people come together. I know for me personally, I can attest to the community that's formed around certain interests like hobbies, right? So off-roading or overlanding. I've gotten to that recently, and it's been interesting. And I'm in these LR3, LR4 Land Rover Facebook groups. And, it's like if you're in the right one, it's rich with comments and people that are sharing stuff about what they're doing in their life as it revolves around this hobby. So I think it's interesting because I like to kind of observe how people decide to live their lives, right? Like in different ways from a marketing standpoint. But I mean, I see that and it's true. I mean, it's real life. People are doing life with each other in a new way that's virtual.
But what I see in the businesses, if you have to really force that narrative of who we are, I almost feel like that is completely fake.
Right.
Your action should dictate it.
Yeah, I think it should be the opposite, where you find that value in the market where there's a community that's forming and you come along and support it. And you have to align with it, right?
Absolutely.
But assuming you align with it, you come along and support it, and now you're received as a strategic partner in that community as a business, that they know you're there to sell product to make money.
So do you think businesses rely too much on their mission statement as opposed to, hey, we're going to do this?
Oh yeah.
But
completely.
if you actually just did it, then you don't really need that mission place. So if that altruistic, we're going to have the green initiative bank.
Yeah.
If they specifically just marketed those customers and didn't, oh, well, now we have to do a loan to, I mean, to me, that it's just completely like fake lip service. We're going to get, of course now regulators like, oh, we're going to have this bank that is, carbon footprint. And we have this push now. The head of the FDIC has got this carbon emission of lending to it. And now they're going to force that narrative and force the banks to focus on the industries they're lending to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that it is just
that whole
beyond
thing,
my mind, but so much of it is completely fake.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it kind of goes back to this idea of like thinking like a business person, and you do your market research and you try to see, is there a viable market for this product or service? And I think there's definitely a subset of the greater market that enjoys and wants to talk about how they're saving the earth, right? Or impacting the earth in a positive way. But is it really a big enough piece of the market of people who actually care that they're going to make their decisions fully around?
Well, I mean, take a drop ship company, which was getting huge prior to the pandemic. Now we've got supply chain issues, so I'm sure they're reevaluating. Maybe I got to store my goods so I can have a product to sell when the supply chain gets hindered. But ultimately, okay, great. This company has a very few carbon footprint. Now, are you actually going to get into where you're buying it from? You know, are they buying stuff? Okay, it didn't have a carbon footprint in the U.S. Yeah.
That's right.
So who's making it?
Exactly. Yep.
And how does that come back to how's America actually benefiting from this? So, you know, where is the bank that's coming in that says, I'm financing specifically on American-made products. Let's get back to manufacturing.
Yeah. How deep do you go actually to follow that through is what you're asking. And I think it's super, especially if your first loan's to a gas station, you're really not following that very far. But
and then the regulators are just going to destroy that climate initiative and things like cash for clunkers back then. Did that really help society?
Yeah,
you know,
right.
What it did, I mean, maybe it was better to just redo the catalytic converter of that old clunker. Right. Is better green than actually trading that in for a newer car that, you know, who did it really serve?
Yeah, upcycling.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, you know, it goes back to substance, and that's what
but I think community is going to be one of these threads we talk about because it's in and through the behavior of the market behind all of these different things. We're talking about fintech, talking about NFTs, blockchain, banking. It's all being very community driven.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's been that way. I mean, from the dawn of man, it's all about community. I mean, but
NFTs.
Now it's becoming something
different.
Where's
the success of NFTs coming from? It's coming from the art world and the creator world, the influencers. You know, so I mean, that community is kind of the start of it. That is the trendsetters.
Yeah. I think that's interesting too. Like, you know, Da Vinci, I don't know anything about him, but did he get paid what he was worth? Right? Probably not.
No, not even close.
I mean, but now you've got people getting paid probably more than he's worth. But I think that the decentralized effort there on the NFT space at the current moment, it's real hot, right? But as it pans out, it is interesting for creators. And in fact, I think that's a lot of what, in my opinion, I think you're seeing this, the great resignation, as they're calling it. I think you're seeing a lot of people just quit the full-time job and go to be freelancers and creators and influencers, et cetera, right? On every level to all degrees.
Well, NFTs actually puts the power back into the creators.
Right, right.
So, I mean, did you know that, you know, I'm going to get the terminology messed up, but as an NFT is created, you can build in the percentage of royalties in the beginning. So the creator that built it, whether you're the artist and this is your track that you laid, so you can put in 10% royalties. So your artist, you sold it to a fan for $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So that first sale, you collected majority of that 1,000. Now every time it sells thereafter, you collect 10%.
That's right. And the secondary market could be higher than the first. Yes. Depends on
and ongoing
where the market's at. Yeah.
So the work you put into that one can pay you perpetually. And so if it's already minted in that you own it, there's no dispute that you own it.
Yeah.
You didn't have to get in fight with the different record labels, going back on the contract negotiations. You own it. So same one with the artist, though, and that goes back to the struggling artist that his work or her work is now worth millions of dollars. Well, they can still benefit from the escalation of that work.
That's right.
Long into the history. So the creators, you know, it kind of puts the power back into that. And I do, you know, think about that. Now, if that person,
that's right.
You know,
if they live within their means and they don't seek to have the Lamborghini.
Too bad we can't figure this out to the, you know, the people that are digging diamonds. You know, they get paid so little.
Right.
Wouldn't it be nice if they got a percentage of every time I think that diamond sold over the years.
That's sort of the philosophy of Bitcoin, though, right? For the decentralized way of currency. So it's not NFT, right? But we're getting closer. I think people in those countries that are being used as slave labor, there's a lot more factors that go into them in that situation. But I think with that as a mechanism, we're getting closer to bringing those people up.